What's up, guys? We are Tottenham TV here. We're at the Novatel Hotel at Paul Stewart's book signing with Punjabi Spurs. I'm here with Paul Stewart himself. How are you doing, Paul?
I'm very well, thank you.
How's the reaction to the book been?
Well, it's not your conventional book, as you know.
Yeah.
If you're looking to read an autobiography, then I think you'll be disappointed. I never really intended to write an autobiography. I didn't think my football memoirs and career warranted one, but obviously that changed last November, over a year ago today, and I had a life story to tell.
Well, it's incredibly brave and very inspirational what you've done, coming out like you did in August. What kind of inspired you to come out like you did?
Do you know what? I'd struggled for a long time coping with it myself. I read a story in a paper of another footballer, albeit in the lower leagues. I hadn't really heard of him, and that's no disrespect to him. But I read his story. It was like reading my own, and I knew that there was other people out there suffering from the effects of what happened to them as children. So I felt compelled, and I thought I needed to tell my story, and I realised that having been a Spurs player and a City player in Liverpool and England, I knew that people might just sit up and listen, and the actual the roller ball effect from that was enormous, which is very sad, really, to know so many people have suffered. But I think we needed, it needed to be out there, it needed to be told.
Oh, we commend you.
Thank you.
For sure. All right, listen, let's talk about Spurs now.
Yeah.
Back on Spurs now.
Yeah,
so you joined the club in 1988. What were your feelings when you heard Spurs were in for you and there was an actual chance like Terry Venables wanted you as a player?
Well, do you know what? They were. We used to call them the top six then, and there was 6 clubs, and Spurs were one of them. I came down to have talks with Terry, and he just sold it. He just sold the club to me. And do you know what? And just realising now and reflecting, it was a massive step for somebody like me, because I was a northerner and still am a northerner, and I brought my wife down with me, and it was a massive step for us. But initially it didn't start off great, but then things transpired, and I tell you what, I probably had the best time of my football career here.
Well, you signed as a striker, didn't you? And they kind of converted you into a midfielder when you joined.
No. Listen, there was no master plan there of Terry Venables. Everybody thinks he had this master plan of me in midfield. We had 2 players sent off. I was playing up front with Gary Lineker. Out of the 2 of us, who do you think is going to drop back into midfield? Links is
not Gary, definitely not
Links
Gary.
is never going to make a challenge. So, Stewie, back you go. And from there, it just transpired into. I felt comfortable. I have to admit, I had the genius that was Paul Gascoigne alongside me. So, do you know what? For me, it was a great gig.
You joined from Man City, right? You were playing in the second division at the time. You were the highest fee ever paid for a second division player. Do you think that added kind of more pressure onto you when joining Spurs?
Well, I think if you check your records, I was probably the most expensive British signing
at the time
for a day.
Oh, for a day.
And then Gazza blew it out of the water with his 2.5 million deal. So I did hold it for one day, and then I signed on the Saturday, and Gazza joined us on the Sunday. But yeah, do you know what? I don't mind saying this. You bought for 1.7. You're a striker. You're expected to score goals. If you don't score goals, then people are asking why you're not scoring goals. And I can't, I have to be honest and say I did feel the pressure from that, and I can't say any other. But early on in my Tottenham career, I was thinking I want to go back home. I couldn't settle. But to be honest with you, I stuck at it, persevered, ended up in midfield, as we all know, and things went for me from strength to strength.
So let's talk the FA Cup final. In 1991, you were part of the last Spurs team to win the FA Cup. You were given man of the match on that day. You scored in the final. Just describe the day and describe how it felt.
Do you know what? It's not just the day. It's the once you get through in the semi-final, which was an unbelievable experience, because I think it was the first semi-final ever played at Wembley. And that was purely and simply because they needed to house all the fans. No other ground would have held them. And then from then on, semi-finals started to get played at Wembley. So from probably 6 weeks leading up to the FA Cup final, it was just, you know, the media wanted a piece of you. You were getting measured for suits. You were doing cup final songs.
Does it really affect your preparation?
It doesn't affect it. You know, it's actually what you dream of when you're a kid, wanting to aspire to them heights, and it was everything and more. And then, luckily for me, I managed to pull one of my best games of my career out the bag on that day, and obviously score the equaliser, which then gave us that impetus, and we were stronger, and we did feel stronger towards the end to go on and win it. So it was excellent, as we just watched the goal go in now.
Oh, here we go. It's on in the background, just watching Paul Stewart score his goal. Absolutely great strike. There we go. Yeah, everyone's looking at him now. Great goal.
There you go.
Yeah, that's true.
And we're getting it on replay now, Ronnie.
Exactly. Watch it again. Just marvelling at the brilliance of Paul Stewart over here. Shoots it across the keeper. Absolutely fantastic strike.
Yeah.
Obviously, we
close your eyes and hit it.
Obviously, we beat Arsenal in the semi-final of that year. As a Northerner, not growing up at Spurs, how's the rivalry for someone like you coming down and joining Spurs? Was it as intense?
Well, do you know what? I've played in a lot of derbies, as you probably know by now, because I was, I was at Manchester City, at Sunderland, at Wolves, at Spurs. So I've encountered a lot of derbies, and to be honest with you, the Spurs-Arsenal one was as intense as any other. They're all a little different for different reasons, as we know, the Merseyside derby, where they all congregate and go together to the game. But I think the Spurs derby itself is with Arsenal there is pure dislike between two sets of supporters, and you can feel it on the day. And do you know what? You want to go and do your best, because you want the Arsenal supporters not to have the bragging rights until the next time you play them. And unfortunately, at my time at Spurs, not many times did we have the bragging rights, but certainly at Wembley on that day we did, and you know what, it was fantastic as well.
Absolutely great. Obviously, just you mentioned before, you played with Paul Gascoigne, obviously in the midfield. In your book, you have many funny anecdotes of Paul Gascoigne, as there are loads. Do you want to give us one?
The ones I can tell.
Yeah, the ones you can tell.
Well, do you know what? I always have to say that the ostrich one is my favourite, because it was written about Steve Sedgley, who played for us, and it was all surrounding, which was then fun. I'm not so sure you'd get away with it now, but I still like the one where we're doing, where we're doing crossing and shooting, and Gazza has a shot, and the old Mill Hill training ground, the fence weren't that big, and it went over the fence onto the road, and he went to the gaffer, "I'll go and get it." So he disappears over the fence, and then we don't see him for 24 hours. Turns up the next morning with the ball in his hand to the gaffer saying, "I've got it." And do you know what? We did have a lot of fun. We had a great team spirit, and do you know what? I've said this before. People liken it to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, with Gazza being Jack Nicholson, because that's Paul Walsh's words. That's what it was like. We had fun every day, and it was a great time to be a Spurs player.
Absolutely brilliant. One last question: of the side you were playing in, which players were getting to the current side, do you reckon?
Well, I know I wouldn't. I don't think I would. I'd have to honestly believe that it would be Gazza and Lineker, in my opinion.
Partnering Kane or instead of Kane?
Well, that would be up to Pochettino.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, cheers for coming on the channel, Paul. Absolute pleasure having you on. To get his book Damaged, link will be in the description below. It's on Amazon. Absolutely fantastic book, really great read, well worth read, so check it out in the description below. Thanks a lot, Paul. Absolute pleasure having you on. Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.